Okay, so about me. So I'm a late diagnosed. I was diagnosed in adulthood in my late 40s. I think it was in 2017 when I was 47. So I'm 50, 51 now, I think. So I got diagnosed and one of the first things you do when you get diagnosed is you go online and you kind of start Googling and you look for a community and you look for, just a place to be and something to fit into because you spent your whole life not fitting into anything. So now you want to be a part of something. So I went looking around, and one of the first things you find when you start Googling for autism related things is Autism Speaks. And that really didn't appeal to me because their entire focus is geared towards talking to the parents of autistic children, not actual autistics, and they have many other issues. And they also have that they had a whole negative vibe of as if autism is this horrible curse that that's fallen upon you and your life is ruined and there's no hope and blah 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 and that's that's just not been my experience with autism. I mean, it's not easy, but I mean, it's not a curse that's destroying my life either. It's just, it's a thing. Everybody's got a thing, and sometimes those things are really hard, and sometimes those things work in your favor, and that's just kind of what all of us have to deal with in life is we've all been given something. That's, two-sided coin, both a curse and a blessing, and you have to figure it out. So that's how I approach autism. And so the point of view that I felt Autism Speaks was working from just did not work for me at all. So I kept looking. Next place I found was like a message board called Strange Planet, and that was like a lot of autistic people just kind of chatting and sharing stories and things like that. And that was kind of interesting. But then it didn't take long before I started to feel like I didn't fit in there as well. Because, for one, it felt like a lot of the people there were very young. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that me being, 47 or whatever at the time, it didn't feel like really the place for me. Like a lot of them were complaining about like when I grow older I'm never going to get a girlfriend or I'm never going to get a job or this and that. And granted, those are all legitimate conversations to have, but it felt a lot to me like there was this it was a competition to see who could be the most woe is me or who could be the most I have it bad because I have autism and epilepsy, or I have autism and this, and I take this and this medicine. And it was kind of like it was everyone was trying to outdo each other to see who could have the most, like, the most worst life, if that makes any sense. So that didn't appeal to me because that's just not my in my younger years. There was a lot of other things going on, and I spent a lot of time living in that victim mode, and it sucks. And I finally clawed my way out of there, and I don't want to go back to it because it's not a good way to live at all. It sucks. It's horrible. It doesn't work, and it's just nothing but misery. So there too, I view autism as a challenge in my life. Sometimes it's a bane. Um, is that bane the right word? But regardless, I don't want to compete with other people to have the worst autism. So I'm like, okay, so that's not working. The only other thing I could find was like little groups, like little cliques on Twitter where certain autism people were gathering and talking. And they seemed to be older, so they were initially, I kind of felt a little bit more comfortable in that space. But it didn't take long before I started feeling like it's almost like a lot of the people's motivation was more for virtue signaling and who's the most woke person, who's doing everything right, using all the correct phraseology of whatever they determined last week as the correct way of wording things. And it could be a simple thing as, using the phrase person with autism versus autistic person. I personally always used autistic person. I understand that a lot of people in academia were taught that the correct way to do it is person with autism. The reason they were taught that way is really effed up because they were taught that way because the person isn't defined by their autism, and you remember that they're a person first and all this stuff. Well, I think that's stupid because if you need to dance around words just to remember that I'm a person, then you've got some other issues going on that I don't need to worry about. You got to work on that your own self. Um, so I went through my phase where I was getting mad at people using the wrong terms at the wrong time. But then I got out of it. I did the same thing when I was a young kid, when I was like in my early 20s. And so a young woman, living alone and very independent, just fiercely independent. I've always been. And um, basically learning, um, becoming aware of the feminist space and feminism. And I still consider myself essentially a feminist, but back then, one of the same things was a lot of virtue signaling, a lot of who's the best feminist, who does everything right, who does everything on their own and never gets any help from a man, and just stupid things. But you get pulled into it. And I remember one of the things back then, and I still see it sometimes today, but one of the things back then that was really big was if you're a feminist and you're walking into a store or something and there's a man in front of you and he opens the door for you, you need to get angry at him and rip his head off. And I've done that. I mean, it's such a stupid thing. I look at it now and I'm just like, why, why wasn't anyone in charge of me? That's such a stupid thing to do. And what really shocked me out of that mindset and made me realize just how stupid I was being was one day I was walking into a store and this young man about my age was in front of me with his little boy, just a tiny little kid. And so they walk up, and the man opens the door, and he kind of, holds it open for a sec for his son, and then he keeps walking. And the little boy is holding the door back with his body, with all of his might. It's taken all of his, he's the door slowly closing in because the door is heavier than he is, and he can't hold it open. But he's trying to hold the door open because he could see that I'm right behind him. And then the dad suddenly noticed that the kid's not with him, so he turns around and he's like, "Son, what are you doing?" And the boy looks up at his dad and he goes, "Dad, girls go first." So he's holding open the door for me because girls go first. You have to let the girl go in the door first and then he can go in. So it was just, and I was just like, a little kid does that for you. It's just the sweetest little thing in the world. He doesn't have any malintent. He doesn't mean anything by it. He doesn't think that you, this big, strong woman, can't handle it on your own. It's a respect thing. And that's what he was doing. He had been taught to respect women, to hold the door open for them, let them go in first, and then you can go in after. And that's what really, it just shook me out of my fog, if you will, because if it's polite when a little kid does it, why can't it be polite when a grown man does it? Why is it suddenly rude when he does it? And I asked myself that question one day, after that happened, I was thinking about it and I didn't have an answer. I'm like, I don't. It's sometimes, there can always be a situation where somebody will just very snarkily hold a door open for you as if you can't handle it. That's a one-off. That's not what's happening most of the time when someone opens a door for you. So then I was like, I'm stupid. I'm acting stupid. This is not me. This is not what I believe. I want to live in a world where people are courteous and thoughtful of each other and hold doors open for each other. And yet here I am walking around biting people's heads off when they do just that for me. So, I'm like, okay, I can't be this person anymore. So I stopped doing that. I stopped kind of following that mindset that was being put out, and I just kind of went my own way. And I've been feeling a lot the same way with some of the disability people, autism people, and disability people on Twitter. Is it feels a lot the same way. Is every week there's something new that they're angry about. They're never happy. They're always angry at somebody, always fighting with somebody. It's almost like they move in these roving packs where they'll come across some conversation where somebody made a comment about their high functioning child, and then they just all pile on about how dare you use functioning labels. And again, I'm guilty of this because I did the same shit, and it's stupid, and it's a stupid thing to do, and it's not helpful. It doesn't fix anything, and it's stupid. And if I've ever done that to you, I'm sorry, because it was stupid and I shouldn't have done that. And I'm old enough to know better, and I don't know why I fell into that. But so that's kind of what I'm seeing on Twitter. So I don't really feel comfortable having that be my community either. So I'm like, okay, I don't fit in any of these places, but there's got to be other people like me, or there's got to be some place where I can fit in, at least a little bit. So then I started thinking, well, what if maybe I should just build my own spot, because maybe there's other people like me and they'll come to here and they'll want to, hang out here too. Maybe they're having the same issues. So that's when the idea for Autistic Wiki was starting to be born. So I started thinking, well, what if I roll back a bit? So one of the things was, one of the reasons why I wanted to make Autistic Wiki was, one, because I couldn't find a community that I fit into. But two is because when you first go online and you're looking for information about autism, what do you find? The first thing you find is Autism Speaks. The second thing you find is probably whatever the latest organization is that's trying to eliminate autistics from the world. And people get angry about this, rightly so, and they complain on Twitter and on Facebook and all their various groups, but they don't do anything about it, because in order for people to not end up at Autism Speaks as their first stop when they go searching for information, is they have to have an alternative. So if you are not providing them with that alternative, a place that is better to go to, that is giving them all the same information and services that they were getting at Autism Speaks, if you don't provide that for them, then you have no right complaining that they didn't go to this other place that does not yet exist. How are they going to do that, right? So if you want to provide a place with better information about autism, you need to create that place. If you want to create a place where the media can come and talk to autistics when it's time for the Autism Awareness Month and they need the sound bites, you need to provide them with a place to come and find those autistics, because they're not going to find them just flipping around through Twitter. I mean, they don't have time to file through millions of people on Twitter when they have no idea who they're looking for. They need to have a quick place to go to. They've got, time stamps they've got to get done for their work. You need to make it easy for people. So if you want to do better than Autism Speaks, you need to start doing better than Autism Speaks, because right now they're owning the game because they have a place where people can go. They've got enough stuff on the web and they've been on the web long enough that when you search for something, their name pops up first. So you need to dominate the space. You need to put in the work. You need to put in the effort. You need to have people on hand in order to create an alternate option for people to come and find you once they come searching for things. So that was my vision of, let's do that with Autistic Wiki. So Autistic Wiki would start out as a Wikipedia, like kind of like the real Wikipedia. It would start out as a Wikipedia just completely focused on all autism things. So we'll start there, and then media, if they have a question, they can come to Autistic Wiki and answer the question. And maybe from there they'll cross-reference authors or something and find other people to look at. So I thought, let's start there. Let's start with the wiki, and then from there it can grow. Maybe we can add the message boards and the chat groups and stuff like that, so people have a place to come in and talk. And we can have different groups, so the people who want to be virtue signalers, they can be in a group over here, and the people who want to be complaining because they can't get a girlfriend, they can be over here. And then the people who are like, look, autism kind of sucks sometimes, but other times it's awesome and I'm dealing with it and I just want to talk to other people who are doing the same, and we can have a group over here. And you can all kind of be together while at the same time separate, so that you don't piss each other off and you don't step on each other's toes. And then we can have, I'm thinking, we can have things like a marketplace, because if you want to support autistic artists or autistic companies, let's have a place where you can come and find all of the autistic companies, whether it's Maybe it's somebody in your city who is a general contractor or a plumber or something. Let's put their name up so anybody coming to who lives in this city, if they want to support an autistic, you know, small business owner, they can find them. Maybe you have a YouTube channel and that's how you earn a living. Let's put your name there so that people can come and find you and support you. So I'm thinking like, let's have a place where people can come and find us and kind of make this work. I was also thinking, again, with like media related type things, is maybe have a section where um, for media contact. So if media wants to contact somebody to talk about autism type things, like where should they go? Well, right now they're going to go find Autism Speaks because that's the biggest and best organization to find something like that. So let's create something different. Let's create a page or a section where anybody who's comfortable talking to the media and you know can handle it, they can have their name and their credentials and what they're, if they have a certain specialty. Maybe it's my specialty is discussing autistic legislators, stuff like that. My specialty is discussing services for your child's school, blah, blah, blah. We can have different people in one section so you can come and find those people if the media needs to talk to them or anybody else. That way, if we start building this right, people will stop going to Autism Speaks because we'll be doing it better. And that's really all it is kind of let the market decide. If we need to put our money where our mouth is. I mean, we can't sit there and complain about some company that's doing a good job if we're not giving the customer an alternate product. And that's kind of where I'm going with this. I hope I don't sound angry, but I'm kind of going off on it a little bit. So I've been thinking about this for years and years and years. I don't even know how many years it's been. I've had so many stops and starts over the year. Um, Part of it is because one of my diagnoses was ADHD. I was severely ADHD. So I have a lot of ideas. I have a billion notebooks sitting around here with, scribbles and ideas. But actually getting stuff done is, I'm a train wreck. It's really hard for me to get things done. Part of that is because I'm just scared I'm going to fuck it up. like I'm scared I'm going to like create a website, because when I was younger in my like 20s, I created a community back then too, for it was not a fan, it wasn't really a fan club, but it was related to like a singer that I followed. So I created a website, a message board where we could like all chat about it. And I have this belief, urge, wish that that things will just kind of work themselves out. Um, I don't like the idea of having like moderators on message boards, because I want to believe that like bad people will just be shunned out by the good people, and they'll just stop playing in that over here because they're just not welcome. Well, it doesn't work that way. What actually happens, I heard, what actually happens is all the good people get pushed out, all the bad people take over, and you end up with an absolute shit show. Shit show, shit show, shit show. It's just absolute chaos. It sucks. It's like kind of like, what is it, 8chan or 8kun or whatever the fuck those things are. That's basically what you end up with when you don't moderate. But I fucking hate the idea of moderating shit, because I want to believe that, let people speak within reason. I mean, I think there has to be certain rules. You can't talk about stuff like this. You can't threaten people's lives. You can't, you know, there's certain lines you don't cross, right? But for other people, there are no lines, or the lines are way over there, and my line is right here. So one of the things is you have to make rules, and oh gosh, and you have to have somebody available to do moderate. Um, so I've been rolling around ideas in my head of how you can make a place where it's kind of like moderated by the community. So kind of my idea of letting community rule, but somehow figure out how to do it so that it doesn't get taken over by the bad guys, if you will. Um, I'm still working on it. I know places like, is it Reddit, which kind of sort of has that idea going on. But at the same time, I mean, that can get super, super toxic there, and I just don't want that to happen. So that's something that I'm still kind of mulling around and trying to figure out. Um, oh, it's going to take a while. And I think maybe what I need to do is I just need to launch it, get it up and running, and then kind of figure it out from there. Maybe figure it out as you go. I guess, I mean, isn't that kind of how everyone does it? I hope. I don't know. Um, I do like the idea of having things like so like if we have a list of community approved autistic organizations, for example, pretty sure most of us are going to vote down on Autism Speaks for good reason. And many of us would vote up on something like Probably Asan, right? So I want to try to figure out how to create this space so that the community can vote in. My idea is like peer reviewed research. That's what I'm thinking of, is peer reviewed autism organizations. So you can't just come in and click an anonymous button and say this guy sucks. You have to be able to back up your claim. You have to be able to say, like if you give it a thumbs up, you have to be able to say, I give it a thumbs up because, and you have to put your name to it. If you give it a thumbs down, you have to be able to say, I give it a thumbs down because, and you have to give a reason. And if your reason is because they suck eggs, then okay, everybody knows to ignore you because you're just, that's not an answer. So, and maybe something like that should get muted or not counted, like stuff like that. So I'm trying to think of I really like the idea of the community, the autistic community being the one to make decisions here to a point. I mean, if I'm purchasing the web host and everything, that I am going to have final say, but I like the idea of having, for the most part, the autistic community having a huge, huge, huge say in a lot of what happens at the website, because I think that's important for us. Um, I think it's important. I think it's also going to be educational for us, because one of the problems that we have is we are very um, um, disjointed or set up. Um, I don't know, whatever. We're separated, um, segregated. Because, for example, um, if we have an example like, let's do the functioning labels. So let's say we're voting on, organization, a certain organization. Is this an approved organization or a disapproved organization? And some people will vote. Am I even talking about what I want to be talking about? I don't know. I think I forgot what I was talking about. Um, but I don't want some people to say like, oh no, I don't want this organization because they use functioning labels. Well, I mean, that's your opinion, but is that really enough on its own to say that everybody in the world should not use this organization? I don't think that's where I'm going with that. I'm trying to explain what am I trying to explain? I'm trying to explain how if we are all voting on something, we need to learn to compromise, maybe, where if I'm okay with functioning labels and you're not okay with functioning labels, we need to learn how to find a middle ground and agree to disagree, because the bigger picture is what's more important in this moment, or something like that. I don't know. I don't think I'm going about that right. We'll have to talk about that another day. So ultimately, I'm hoping that Autistic Wiki can be like a one-stop shop for autism and autism-related things. So you can start here and then maybe, go off to another website or go off to somebody's store or whatever it is, maybe somebody's blog or something. So I'm kind of hoping that it's like a hub, like a central hub for autism that we can all start from. um, and with primarily the rules and the connections and everything being approved by actual autistic people. That is my goal. I want it to be something where autistic people can look at it and say, this is my home. This is my home base, and I approve of this. That's what I'm looking for. And I mean, all of us with all of our different ideas, And sometimes it's really, we're coming to heads on things, but I really want to see us finding common ground somehow, some way, because I think in the end, I think that's going to help us, the community as at large. I think that's going to help us out a lot and be really important. One section I would really, really, really love is if somebody or some buddies out there um, can do a research section where, and maybe this is in like the forums or the chat areas. But for example, on Twitter, I followed this lady named Michelle something, and she posts a lot about um, autistic uh, research and stuff, and she'll talk about it just briefly. And she posted, and I always go to her links and I read like the brief on the, I don't think it's called the brief, whatever it's called, on the research. But I never know what I'm reading. like I don't, when it comes to research, I don't know what I'm reading. I don't know what those words mean. And I really want someone who can explain it to me in layman's terms and say, this is what the research is saying. This is, and here's another one where we need to work together on, because some of the research, some of our people are trying to shut down any research that they view as, oh, this is going to be eugenics. Okay, I see where you're coming from, and you have a point, but at the same time, a lot of this research is useful. It's useful in some way, and we're learning a lot of really important things from it. So yes, there is always that danger that of eugenics, but at the same time, the more involved we are, and the more we talk about the if something's danger or scary to you, you need to shine light on it, and you need to, bring it out into the open, because if you keep it hidden and not talk about it, it's not going to get better. So if we want to talk about, this research is useful because we learned X, Y, and Z, however, it's dangerous because, blah, blah, blah. I think we should be having those conversations out loud where the rest of the world can see it happening, because that's going to, one, make it easier to see us as human beings rather than just something that happens to us. And two, we should be having that voice at the table because it's about us. So I want that to be out in the open. I don't want conversations like that being tamped down and say, no, we don't talk about that, because that is something that I see in certain spaces where people just flat out refuse to discuss it. And I I think that's the wrong approach. I understand if you personally don't want to discuss it right now, but that I don't think you should try to make everyone else stop talking about it. I think we need to have these conversations about everything that we're learning with research, about everything, all of the dangers that could result from it. I think we should talk about it and use it to our advantage and just do what we can. Um, Similar to that, I would love it if we could have a section for like politics, political related things. So somebody who is really good at following politics and can keep us up to date on the latest legislation affecting autism and stuff like that. And if you need to make changes in your local school system, how do you go about that? Maybe they can teach you how to do that. How do we organize marches, or how do we organize boycotts, or how do we organize campaigns to move the needle and to change legislation and to make changes in the world so that it is a safer world for us, so that we do have the supports that we need, and that is just so that we are actively being part of the change rather than just sitting back and complaining about stuff not being the way we like, because that doesn't work and it's not fixing anything. So I would love it if we had somebody who could like take over that part of the website and just kind of help us, here's what you do. Like right now, for example, the judge, I don't know if it's pronounced Rotenberg, that's how I say it, Rottenberg sometimes, because that sounds better. So they do the electric shocks on people, and it's a bad thing. They should have been shut down years ago. So I would love it if we had somebody who is skilled in the political arena that can say, yeah, it sucks. Here's what we need to do. These are the steps we need to do in order to make a change of this, because bitching about it on Twitter is not having a huge effect. Like it raises a little bit of awareness, and it moves the needle like a little bit, but we have enough there's enough of us and we have enough friends and allies that we should be able to do a better job of moving the needle. So I think if we had somebody who could lead us in that direction and give us ideas of here's how you do it. Here's what you have to do. Here's what you have to focus on. These are the steps you take. I think that would be really, really good for us. And then part of, providing a better product is, let's have a section for resources for adults. Like, I'm an adult. If I need autism resources, what does that mean? What does that look like? Is that just like learning skills of how to run a household? Is that how to manage money? Is it how to navigate the HR system at work to get support? What happens when you declare, this happened to me, what happens when you declare your diagnosis to your boss at work and then they start treating you like a little baby and act like you can't do anything without permission because you have a you have problems with people. So what do you do when that happens? And then, let's have a resource section for children, all the resources that you expect to find for children. Um, Maybe even a list of things like autism friendly shops. Like if a shop has, this is the quiet hour between on, Sunday morning between 10 a.m. and noon is when the shop is quiet and we don't have the loud music and the lights are dimmed. And, if there's stuff like that, let's keep track of it because that would, I'm sure people would love to, if there was an autism friendly shop in my neighborhood, I'm pretty sure I would go there and support them even if I didn't need anything. I think I'd find something to buy or whatever just because I want to support that and I want to see more of it. Duh, duh, duh. Protest, looking through my notes. Just bad autism. Yeah, okay. I think that's enough for now. We're already at over a half hour. Um, but I hope that made some sense. If you got through it this long, then thank you so much because I know it's wild, long, and rambling and doesn't always make a lot of sense, but that's just kind of how I do things. And eventually, in the end, it sometimes makes sense, not always, but we're going to try. But this is what I'm going for, you guys. This is my goal. This is my dream. I really want to make this happen because I want to make a difference. There's a lot of people in the autism community that are fucking pain in the ass, but there's also a lot of really awesome, 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 amazing people. And I want to provide something nice for them. I want to give them something good. So so I'm going to be looking for your help because I can't do it alone. I need you guys. And so I hope you're here for it. I hope you approve. I hope you like it. And I hope you will help me. All right. Wish me luck. All right. Thanks. Bye.